guys. You're listening to Metal Matters, a weekly gimme radio podcast. I'm your host, Mike Hill. If you like metal, punk, hardcore, or anything extreme, you've come to the right place. So subscribe and never miss out. Once again, welcome to 2020. Everyone who missed last week's episode, I'd like to welcome you back. This week, we have Jamie Stillman of the band Relaxer, and also of the guitar effects company Earthquaker Devices. Jamie and I talk about the band and its genesis from some of his former bands, a band that I quite like called Party of Helicopters, and also the fascinating story of this very cool effects company, Earthquaker Devices. And that's the kind of thing I'm really interested in. I like people who come out of the D.I.Y scene and apply that ethic to something that is a little bit more legit, as like a legitimate business making electronic devices such as the aforementioned Earthquaker Devices. I caught up with Jamie when Relaxer played at Saint Vitus. It was a bit of a challenge to find a place that was quiet, so shout out to Champion Coffee for letting us post up there for a bit. It has a bit of a rough and tumble vibe because of, it's a raw recording. We're out in the field. Also, due to some technical difficulties, the very end of this interview got compromised. So, there is a somewhat abrupt ending to our pleasant chat that we had. Apologies for that. Anyway, onward. What brings you to Brooklyn, Jamie?
My band Relaxer are playing a show tonight at Saint Vitus.
Are you on tour, or is this...
it's just a little weekend trip.
A weekend
trip?
trip?
Rochester last night, and tomorrow we're playing beautiful Youngstown, Ohio.
Oh, Youngstown, a town that's prominently featured in a lot of Devo's material.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, that
I
song,
actually had no idea.
Auto Modown.
Oh.
They talk about Youngstown specifically.
I could see that.
Yeah. I believe Devo's from that part of the country.
Yeah, they're from Akron, where I'm from.
Where you're from. Yeah.
Yeah.
At Rochester, you play at the Bug Jar?
Not at the Bug Jar. We played at a place called Rose and Crown. We were trying to play the Bug Jar, but it was booked.
Yeah.
It's a weird city, Rochester.
I've been playing in Rochester for, I don't know, like 20 years, man. At least 20 years, actually. Yeah. And it's definitely an interesting sort of industrial, post-industrial sort of vibe place.
It's much bigger than I thought it was. I've never seen it during the day. The last time I was there was 2003, and I was my old band, Party of Helicopters, played at the Bug Jar.
You know, Lydia Lunch is originally from Rochester.
That's awesome.
And there's a main drag that's in Rochester by the Bug Jar that she refers to in a lot of her writing. And back in the early 80s, late 70s, it was like, peep shows and all this other kind of like seedy activity to go on there. And now it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
There's a nice Thai restaurant there, that kind of thing.
I bet.
Yeah. So Party of Helicopters.
Yeah.
That band is quite different than Relaxer. Party of Helicopters being sort of in that screamo, late 90s kind of sound.
Yeah.
And Party of Helicopters is sort of morphed into Relaxer, which is more of a psychedelic, like heavy rock kind of thing.
Yeah, which is like slowly morphing into just a doomy caveman band the longer that we go.
So like, what was the creative trajectory between
the two bands? Well, there's a couple bands in between.
Well, I know you played a ton of other bands.
Yeah. So Party of Helicopters was a weird band in which like I was pretty heavily involved with like punk rock music and like the D.I.Y scene and everything, but all the other dudes were not. They were, liked a lot of just all kinds of stuff, like, a lot of like, I don't know, death metal and shoegaze music and like just no punk rock really at all. And I loved Van Halen. Like that's probably my like main influence. This was all this flashy guitar, but it was like we always played with all these like punk rock bands, so it was like blazing fast drums and stuff.
Yeah.
Short songs, and it was just kind of morphed into its own weird thing where we would get called emo or screamo or metal or shoegaze metal, all this weird stuff, but
the Van Halen influence on your playing, though, it's funny because there's a lot of playing that goes on in Party Helicopter songs.
Yeah.
And There was a couple of bands that kind of played around in that style. Like Hot Cross comes to mind.
Yeah.
It's like they have like the kind of noodly guitar things going on. But I was like, man, that dude's like, you know,
A lot of pull-offs.
a lot of pull-offs, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of Van Halen-esque kind of
pick
things.
slides,
Yep.
a lot of dive bombs.
Yeah.
And as I gotten older, my hands are slower, so I can't really do as many of them. But I mean, after Party of Helicopters broke up, I took a long time off from playing music, and I tour managed the Black Keys.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I did that for a long time, and then in the middle of that, I was in a band called Teeth of the Hydra, which was like a real doomy metal band. I played drums in it. Every song was like 15 minutes long. But
Now, playing drums, was that? I always feel like drummers are born and not made.
yeah, I have been playing drums for as long as I can remember.
Okay, good. All
Yeah,
right. Yeah. I was
I'm
going
a
to
drummer.
ask you.
I'm a drummer first.
The question I was going to ask you is like maybe the lack of like formal ability might have contributed to the sound of the band, the slow plodding kind of vibe to it.
It could, but it was a very like. It would be like 15-minute long songs with like 400 parts, and
Yeah.
they'd be like blazing fast. But then for the most part, it was like very drony, repetitive, super heavy. We did one tour with Sour Vein, and then broke up because the other guys were like they lived 2 hours away.
Yeah.
4 hours of driving, plus all the touring that I was doing with Black Keys. I just couldn't do that anymore.
That must have been quite a gig, man, playing with being a tour manager for them.
It was definitely eye-opening. I mean, it was during the period of time where they were blowing up.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not really familiar with like that scene. Whatever you want to call that scene. It was very interesting to watch, and it was also nice because it was like the first time I went on tour, and like I made a paycheck, and I slept in hotel rooms. So I got to be on a bus. I was like, oh, this shit is great. And I wasn't playing, but I did really enjoy tour managing. It was just like traveling office job.
Well, on that level too, it's not like the level that you and I are probably more used to, where you got to like shake some kid down, bring him to the cash machine to give you your money and that kind of thing.
When Teeth of the Hydra did that tour with Sour Vein, I literally got off the bus from the Black Keys and immediately got in a van and did that tour. And on the first day, it was like, oh, this is like serious culture shock. Like, I'm very familiar with this world, but like coming right off of like the bus or whatever.
Yeah, a little jarring.
Like, oh, Jesus.
Kind of jarring.
Yeah,
right?
but I still love all that. So I'm doing it right now, and I'm like 42. Like, I'm still doing it. I love doing that. And I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Eventually touring with them, like it just ended up not being good for anything. Just gone for long stretches of time, acting like a pirate. But I had formed a drummer for a little while, or a band called Drummer with Pat Carney, the drummer from Black Keys.
Oh wow, okay. That guy's a pretty insane drummer, man.
Yeah, he played bass in the band. I played guitar. It's so stupid, the name Drummer. Everybody in the band were drummers, and we were all playing different instruments. But it was a very poppy, just pop-oriented band. Put out one record, did one tour, and that band morphed into Relaxer.
Oh, okay.
And Relaxer, when we started, were more like just very loud sound, like cinematic, I would say.
Well, that's still definitely there.
Yeah, I mean, it is. We had a synth player, though. No bass player, synth player. He played bass synth and then, like, lead keys. Very prog rock, very punishing, but softly punishing. And then when he quit, we just started slowly getting heavier. And now it's just, I don't even know what you would call it. I just refer to it as, like, caveman prog.
Yeah, I would. There's like a hard rock vibe to it.
Definitely a hard rock.
Yeah,
definitely a hard rock vibe.
As opposed to just like straight brutality.
Yeah,
there's like like a hard rock, Pink Floyd possibly sort of element to it.
Accurate.
And real quick though, shout out to Champion Coffee, Manhattan Avenue, Greenpoint we're doing this interview here at Champion Coffee, and there's a lot of background noise.
There's Roxy music in the background.
Yep. So
delicious coffee, though.
Who knows what's the next selection is gonna be?
Yeah.
Anyway, so when did Earthquaker Devices come into existence, and how did it come into existence?
It actually,
amidst all this activity,
Yeah. It's 2005.
Okay.
Really, I kind of started building pedals in 2004. When Party of Helicopters broke up, I had nothing to do. I had like no real job. A lot of time on my hands.
I know that feeling.
So I started, oddly enough, selling just silverware on eBay. Because there's a story in the local paper about a guy who made $1 million selling like antique spoons.
Wow. Okay.
So my wife bought this box of old silverware in an estate sale, cleaned it up, and I put it up on eBay and made like a killing. I was like, oh, this is great because there's no end to tag sales and thrift stores around where we're from.
Sure.
So like every week I go collect all the stuff, we polish it up, put it on eBay, and like that became my job. And I had all this like ridiculous time on my hands, so I started collecting gear. I was just like obsessed with pedals, but I wasn't playing in a band. And that sort of led me to just build some pedals, but like the real start of it was I had this old DoD overdrive and it broke and I couldn't find anyone to fix it, so I looked it up on the internet, found a schematic, and it was on a D.I.Y website called General Guitar Gadgets. And that just kind of opened up the door. From the time I found that until now, like I've just been building pedals. Like I got really obsessed with it, and you know, I was just starting to tour manage the Black Keys, and I had also landed a super awesome job as a freelance graphic designer.
Oh wow, okay.
Where, like I got paid very well to do really boring PowerPoints from home.
From home, like from home is the operative.
Yeah,
right
exactly.
Yeah.
And it was like sort of like creatively soul-sucking work, but the money was great. And all of that played into like I had this time and like a little bit of money to put into just kind of this hobby. And then, it started making pedals for friends, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll put them on eBay. And then what really caught on is there's a video of the Black Keys on an old website called Harmony Central, and someone was like, what is that pedal? And I was like, oh, I made it. And then from that point on, I've just been making pedals.
Now let me ask you a question. The big, to me, like you have a box, right? You plug your guitar into it, you plug the other side into an amp, and magically something happens.
Yeah.
Like a reverb or some sort of like, polymorphic, synth or a delay. And I'm like, do you have a background in like electrical engineering or anything like that? Like how the hell do you figure that out?
I have like a half background in design too. I never got a degree in that, but I had a great job. I really wish I had an answer for that. I mean, I learned from the internet. Really.
Okay.
There's a lot of DIY websites dedicated solely to building pedals. And there's a really great book from the 70s, I think, called Electronics Projects for Musicians.
Okay.
And it explains electronics to dummies. And everything I learned started with that. I still have to go, I'll get stuck sometimes. I'll go back and, just Google stuff, But something resonated there. I've always been a tinkerer. Even as a kid, I would take apart, my grandparents' furniture and put it back together. I built model rockets. Used to tinker with old cars and stuff. I've just always been like that. And I don't know, it combines, graphic design, playing guitar, being the tinker. It kind of combines all of that stuff into one little package, I think.
Yeah, because I think guitarists in general, if you play a stringed instrument that has electronics involved, you're naturally curious about tinkering. Every guitar player I know is taking apart a guitar, or trying to change the pickups.
And I was definitely one of those people. I'm I was a kid in the neighborhood that had the 8-track, so I would record everyone's bands and stuff.
Yeah.
So I was just interested in sound, and that's how I think about all of this stuff is a design project and sound design and package design. And I feel I don't know, for whatever reason, I feel lucky that I can keep coming up with ideas. Yeah, and I don't really even know where they come from. It's
my first awareness of Earthquaker devices was I don't know, back maybe 4 or 5 years ago. We were on tour with Pallbearer.
Oh yeah,
and
they're awesome.
We were, I forgot what date through the Midwest it was, but I remember those guys showed up one day at the venue, and they all had a million other new pedals, because those guys love pedals.
Yeah.
And they had a bunch of pedals already.
Yeah.
And then they showed up with these tiny boxes of brand new pedals.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what's this all about? Where do you guys get all these? Do you like, rob like a music store or something like that? Or do they fall off a truck or what's the deal? So that's when I became aware of Earthquaker Devices because they told me all about it. So I was like, oh, this is cool. Then, the rest of the tour was those guys like figuring out how to use everything.
Yeah.
And, like every night there was like, whoa, there's like this big washy reverb out of nowhere, man.
We just played with them about a month ago. They are experts at it now.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean they're a pretty great band. And
yeah, I love them.
That tour was a lot of fun. They're pretty cool guys to hang out with.
Yeah, they're super cool.
So it feels like recently there's been like more of like a higher profile for the company.
Yeah.
Right. And because I think actually Dean Del Rey, the podcaster.
Yeah.
Do you know him personally?
I do.
Okay, yeah, because that's
I did his podcast very early on.
Oh, right on, man. Because I'm trying to think if I actually heard the episode you did with him, but I remember he mentioned Earthquaker Devices because I don't listen to it regularly. But here and there.
Yeah, we used to advertise on his show. We did for like 2 years straight.
Oh, wow.
I can't remember how we met Dean. I got to be honest with you, but Dean kind of opened, like, my wife and I, Julie, we run the company, love stand-up comedy.
Sure.
And, like, I'm way into the history of it, and I really wanted to see the Comedy Store, and Dean was like, I'll give you a tour. So we got to go to the Comedy Store, and he took us on a tour around the backstage, and, like, he's like, this is Sam Kinnison's Tiny Coke piano, and, like, he's like, this is great. This is awesome. It was super cool, and that night, Mark Maron was like, he had like a 15-minute spot, and he's like, and we love that podcast. He's like, I'll introduce you to Mark. And then,
wow.
We met him, and it was fucking amazing. And then I, did his show, and then, we advertised on his show, and we advertised on What the Fuck. And it was super cool to have an in into that world.
Yeah.
I feel like people hear about Earthquaker from all different kinds of like weird places,
exactly.
But like people tell us this all the time, and I'm starting to notice it. Like, we fall into these situations where we're like in a world outside of guitar effects, but it totally helps.
No, it definitely
spread the
does.
word
Yeah,
of guitar effects.
Yeah,
and we just attract all these like different kinds of interesting people.
Because
cool.
Your effects also show up in these very, like if you go to a shop that has more, like if you go into not a record store, but a music store that's run by guys who are in bands.
Yeah.
Right. For example, I'm thinking of in Syracuse specifically, there's the Gorham Brothers.
Oh yeah.
All those guys are in a band. They've been playing music their entire lives. And if you go into a music store like that, that's where you'll find the Earthquaker Devices material.
Yeah.
You'll find it there. Like maybe not in Guitar Center, where it's like
it is in Guitar Center.
It is.
Yeah.
Excellent.
We're in every one of the chains.
That's awesome, man. No, but that is good. And like
I mean, for us, like that internally, that has been a very slow growth, and there are periods of time where people are like, yeah, they're just exploding, but like it's been like a slow climb, like from just me building pedals one by one in the basement to like the first employees, and now we're up to like almost 50 employees. We were over 50 for a while, and we kind of scaled it back just a little bit. And then we got in Guitar Center pretty early on, but it was like a slow climb for that. But it's all a little bit calculated. It's like you don't want all your eggs in like a big basket like that. We do. I mean, almost everybody at Earthquaker is in a band or plays music. We almost all come from a DIY, like punk rock background, like working with real stores and like working with like local stores. And there's room for people in, all of that stuff, like chains, like as long as you know what you're doing, like it's totally safe to get involved in all those things, and you attract different people from all of those. But like you were saying, Gorham Brothers, like touring musicians and stuff like that, those are the people who I think really get the stuff that we're making. And a lot of people have brought it up to me lately where it's like, I think a lot of these people are attracted to this because they, you're still playing in bands. Like I have pedals on my pedal board that will eventually be Earthquaker pedals. I build stuff that I want, I put it on the board, I try it out for like a year, and I'm like, is this good? Is it not good?
So that's the process then,
yeah,
right?
That's
the
what
R&D
I've been doing
process.
for a long time. Yeah.
You come up with you dream up some sort of sound,
Yeah.
and then you develop it, and then if it works, then it goes into production, right? That's
Pretty much,
essentially
yeah.
All right.
There's a couple things, though, where I'm like, this works for me, but I don't think anybody else would want this. And those always end up being my favorite things. And I don't know why. Like, maybe I'm just hoarding them.
So there's actually a production floor at your spot
yeah,
that has
yeah.
like different,
Yeah, we got it started in a basement.
Yeah.
And then I moved to another basement. And then, like, we eventually outgrew that. We had about 10 people working in a 350 square foot room. This is 2012. We moved out to a shop that was like 1,700 square feet. And within 6 months had 30 employees and had no room left. So we were there for almost 2 years. And then we just moved to the building that we just bought. It's in downtown Akron. It's about 15,000 square feet. Most of our staff is production. We populate all of the pedals, like all of the circuit boards are populated by hand. They're all soldered in-house. All the cases are drilled, printed in-house. We assemble everything, box it all there. It's all done to order. It's still just a big version of what it used to be like. And we do about 1,500 pedals a week.
Wow.
That way.
That's pretty.
Yeah, and I mean, it's starting to get, we're kind of at like the capacity. So it's a constant struggle. I wouldn't say struggle. It's not a struggle. It's a constant puzzle. Like, you have to keep adapting over and over again.
Now, as far as like learning how to run a business, how did what was that journey like?
So for Earthquaker, I gotta be honest, like I never really intended to start a business. There's like no plan, there's no money like put aside for it. It was just, it slowly progressed. Before Earthquaker, I ran a record label I started a label when I was 13 from Christmas money that I had collected, put out a compilation record, and then I ran that for like 10 years.
Oh, actually wasn't the Party Helicopter stuff you released a lot?
Yeah, I put out a bunch of that,
yeah.
In a bunch of local bands. I think I had almost 100 releases by the end of the label. So Earthquaker, like as it started to grow, like I kind of was running it like the record label, whereas like I make a thing, I'll kind of put a little bit of it out there, but for the most part I'll wait and see if people want it, and then people come to me, and that's how we got like all of our earliest dealers, like word of mouth. People would come to us. We didn't even advertise until 2012, and at that point we had like I said, like 30 employees. Very lucky with all of that stuff, but it was like not, just keep moving forward. Like I wasn't sitting back and thinking about it, but eventually one day I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, this is an actual business.
Yeah, that's when it gets scary, right?
My wife, Julie, is a genius. She's really good with money, really good with planning, really good with managing people. She was a financial planner before this. She came in 2012 full-time, and she runs Earthquaker. Like, it's the day-to-day operations, what we do, how we do it, like where we advertise, how we do that, people we work with, contracts, money, everything. She does all of that. And we run it together or whatever. Like there's a plan for that, but she's, totally equipped to do that. And as we've grown, we've attracted more people who are like, like-minded and cool, but also, real knowledge in business in this industry. So like, we pick up people along the way, and like we have a seriously amazing staff who, like, for marketing and for sales and stuff like that, all weird in their own right way and like totally on board with like the way we think. And we try to be super good employers, and like it's not in a corporate environment at all. Health insurance, full benefits, like just trying to be a good employer. And she's been great at doing all that stuff. If this was left up to me, like I would be in a panic. Like, health insurance, how do we do it?
I'd be like, here's $50 cash. Like, see
exactly.
what you can do.
Are you sick?
Yeah.
Feel your head. Here's some aspirin. But no, like it's a fully functioning business. Like it's definitely at a point where like I'm even confused by a lot of it.
Who does the artwork?
So I did the artwork on everything up to 2012.
Okay.
And then we have a friend and a former employee, really, Matt Horak. His first pedal that he did the artwork on was the Depths, and he does the illustration, and I do the layout for the pedals. And he has done pretty much every pedal since then, but he got hired by Marvel Comics.
Oh, wow.
And
so does he live out here now?
No, he lives in Akron, and he kept his illustration office in Earthquaker. So he comes in from like midnight till 6 a.m. and draws like Spider-Man, Deadpool, Punisher.
Wow, that's crazy.
For Marvel.
What's the guy's name again?
Matt Horak.
Dude, because I'm a comic book fan.
Oh, cool.
So I got to look and see if I have any issues.
Yeah, his first thing was The Covenant with Rob Liefeld.
Yeah,
that
okay.
was the first thing he did,
Yeah.
and then it kind of took off from there. So he's been super busy. So last year I did a couple of the pedals again, like I did the artwork for the plumes, and I did the artwork for the Swiss things, and they're all very simple stuff. That was initially the thing I really looked forward to was like, I want to do the art for these things. And then it kind of got out of hand. Like as I had more, we grew and I had more stuff I had to do and like really had to focus on designing products. Like,
yeah.
Just pass more stuff on. And his stuff is amazing.
Yeah, the aesthetic
really cool.
aspect of things too is like, that's for me personally,
Yeah.
and I'm attracted to like things that have like a strong visual identity to them. And I could say that the Earthquaker definitely does.
Yeah.
And
we've kind of, without really having to talk about it too much, you make little changes here and there, but we've kind of kept the same identity the whole time, which is a little bit, mysterious, a little bit simple, but like just interesting enough, I feel like. Still, when I go into music stores and like see it, I'm like, well, you can tell what it is. So I guess it worked out. Like we, thank God, made a brand.
Yeah, it stands out for sure, Yeah. So you're saying that you're into comedians.
Yeah.
And Dean, right? Del Rey.
Yeah.
What other stuff are you into at all? But in that realm.
I gotta think because I always get.
There's a lot.
I draw a blank all the time.
I feel like right now though we're in this kind of like heyday, not a heyday, but like a renaissance, if you will.
I would agree. Like Amy Schumer is probably one of my favorite comedians.
Okay.
I really like. Obviously, Mark Maron, Dean Del Rey. The name's escaping me right now. Anthony Jeselnik.
Oh yeah! Oh man, one of the darkest.
Yeah, I know.
Guy who's still funny.
Last time we were in, we went to the Comedy Store. He was he had like a little 20-minute spot, and my wife fell asleep.
Oh man,
we had been up all night, and she fell asleep during a set, and I was like, oh my God, we're gonna die somehow or another. He's gonna see this, and we're gonna die.
That would be in his next bit, probably about how he murdered
Louis
somebody.
CK before whatever the hell happened with that. And she used to stay out of it, I guess. Bill Burr. Before all that, like I grew up on like Mr. Show, stuff like that. I love, and like Arrested Development, like that kind of humor, I guess. Bill Hicks.
Bill Hicks is great too. Yeah.
And I love like all the old weirds like Sam Kinison.
Yeah, classic.
Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, all that stuff. I like just to go into like the comedy clubs and like you just see. I like just to be surprised by people, and I never remember their names. It's the worst things. But like, there's some really funny. Like I saw, I don't know how to pronounce her name, Eliza
Schlesinger.
Yeah. Early on, like now she seems to be killing it lately, but I haven't really enjoyed too many of the specials. But when I saw her at the Comedy Store like 5 years ago, I think 6 years ago, she's fucking hilarious.
I haven't seen too much live comedy. I got to be honest. I've only really embraced it in the last 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
Like I used to. Oh yeah, I like Lenny Bruce because he's not funny, you know, and it's more of like the spoken word kind of thing. Yeah. But now I really appreciate it in and of itself as an art form when you think about the process of how they come up with material.
Yeah, I feel like just there's a certain personality that comedians have, and I think that it's kind of like the personality that everybody thinks about the world and like this. I feel like they all kind of have this sort of dreary, like everything is awful, but we're going to be okay kind of vibe.
Sure.
And those are the ones that I'm always attracted to. There's something about that I like. But even as a kid, like I used to watch Eddie Murphy Raw on repeat. like as a child.
Watch it again, and some of that humor just wouldn't fly in this day.
Absolutely not.
You know what I mean?
I watched that and Delirious, and it was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, this is so offensive. It's ridiculous.
But that's okay, though, really, because for me, it's like I don't think there's certain things, if it's not for your taste, then if it's offensive to you, then don't watch it.
I
don't
am not
enjoy
easily offended
at
all. I try not to offend other people. I used to be way worse about that. I feel like I used to offend everybody all the time. But that wasn't hard to do in 90s punk rock culture.
No. I got to say, though, man, this Americano that I'm drinking right now is fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying this.
That's why I feel like I'm saying like a million things real quickly. It is great.
Tim, the guy who does your PR, indicated to me that you and I had met one time before. Okay, it was the More Than a Music Festival.
Yeah,
that was in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah,
that was a while ago, man.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
and what's weird is right before we had the email introduction. Like literally a week before that, somebody had sent me all these photos of Party of Helicopters from that fest and a video. And in the video, like I am raging. But it's with your guitar. I am treating your guitar like it's mine because we had the same guitar, the Epiphone Scroll.
Yep.
The SC550, that model of it, which they're pretty rare guitars. Even now they're rare guitars.
Yeah, definitely.
But back then, to find somebody at the same like kind of punk rock show that would have that ridiculous guitar is like one in a billion. So what had happened, like, was like the dude who ran our label had my guitar in his trunk and he got caught in traffic. And we had a mutual friend who was like, I know somebody who has that guitar. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And then like 5 minutes later, produced it the same color and everything.
It was like a Starburst kind of, I think.
It was natural.
It was like a natural color.
Natural guitar. And like, I think even when I first responded to you in an email, I had finally apologized to you because, like, watching the video, I'm swinging it around and like hitting it on stuff. I'm like,
eventually, I had smashed that guitar to bits at some point. So it's like maybe a year after that, I completely destroyed it.
I still have mine. It was smashed to bits at one point, though. It was glued back together.
It was during that period of time when. I was quite fond of the band Dead Guy at that time. Yeah. They were always like swinging their guitars around and smashing people with it, and I think I take it a little too far. And broke it beyond repair.
I do that now. I don't know why. Like over the last like 5 years, I've become way more violent with guitars, and I've broken a few, so I've toned it down a little. But I have no idea, like half the time, what it is that I'm doing. It was sort of like an impulse response.
That fest was actually a pretty cool fest.
That one was awesome. Yeah. It was like Lightning Bolt and High on Fire and Shellac.
Yeah, Shellac.
And who else? Caven play? Not Caven, but
the other Boston band, Converge.
Converge.
Yeah. What actually I was really excited about was Ian Svavonius's band.
Oh yeah.
Name I can't even remember.
Was it Makeup or Weird War?
It wasn't either one of those bands.
Oh.
It was a different Ian Svavonius band that played.
I remember because Michelle was in the band.
Yes.
And she was dressed in all white.
Yep.
They played the same day that we did, and for whatever reason, I was wearing all white too. And we were standing next to each other looking like nurses.
And I'm a huge fan of everything that, Nation of Ulysses,
Me too.
Like Make the Makeup,
he's
all that
still
stuff.
A genius.
Yeah, he's great.
I can't believe that he isn't like one of the most famous people on earth.
It seems like a no-brainer that guy would be a celebrity or something. You know what I mean?
He is in his own right.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But like
in a bigger, more commercial sense.
He seems like he would be like
on like Vice.
Exactly.
He would own Vice or something like that.
That show he did, Soft Focus, is so good.
Yeah. I think Bratmobile played as well.
Yeah.
Yep, that was cool. Yeah. Yeah, it's like fests like that. I feel like that was definitely an end of an era, like when
definitely. There's actually I have another good story from that fest. Friends with Black Keys. I was friends with the Locust. I introduced Pat to Joey and Gabe from the Locust. Within a minute, they were fist fighting. Pat, I think, had put his cigarette out in one of their drinks, and they like both went at him. But Pat's like 9 feet tall, and those guys are real short.
Yeah, they're real little guys.
And they were like. Yeah. Hanging on him, he's like, I'm getting bit by locusts, and it turned into this big thing. Like they attacked the Black Keys van and covered it in locust stickers when they played in L.A. And then I think it was the L.A. Weekly did a story where they were both on the cover and they had made up.
Oh, good.
But
Yeah.
I have this on video somewhere, like this introduction with that thing, but I haven't seen it since.
So it's good. I'm glad they made up because Justin's a cool guy.
Oh, I love Justin.
You know, and
he does some videos for us.
He's a brilliant guy too, man.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. I was like, I kind of fallen out of that whole thing for a little while, and then like just checked back in like a few years ago, like what's going on with like the San Diego thing. I used to love all of those Antioch Era and Heroin were like two of my favorite bands ever. And I love the Locust too, and like all the stuff that he did. But yeah, like just to see like how well that he had been doing, he had maintained the shit that he had always done, Justin, JP, and he is still doing it, and he has made a career out of it, and by just sticking to it, and he looks great.
Oh yeah,
and all of his bands like rip, and it's like good for him. It's fucking great. And then like we weren't like really friends back then, but I think I sent out an email, or maybe he emailed me or something like that, and like was totally like kind of back, like we were friends. It was cool. And then we've done some videos.
Did he do the video for like the music video or
some
of the?
I think we did like a Earthquaker does a series
of
I've seen videos. There's like a Show Us Your Junk where people show us the gear they have, and then Bored to Death where they show the pedal boards. And he did a Bored to Death, I think, showed us his like live rig.
Yeah, I was always like that Screamo San Diego thing. I'm a fan of the music, but I was never really part of it.
Well, it was like a cult. That was the thing. I mean, I feel like I was just kind of skipping around that. It was like we were like from Kent, Ohio, which is like backwoods.
Oh, I know
like,
where Kent. I've been to Kent, Ohio twice actually.
Oh, wow.
In the last
for what?
Just that's one of those towns you play, man.
Yeah, exactly.
There's like that.
Well, we started doing like punk rock shows there, and like we didn't have like we were just weird people who were into like punk rock. It was all different kinds of people. Like, you know, we had no problem with like a straight edge hardcore band and like, you know, a band that sounded like Sonic Youth, and then like a totally offensive joke band, all being on the same bill together. No one cared. There was no politics in that scene. There was no unified code. But then like every city at that time had their own thing like that. And San Diego's was like very flashy and in your face.
Yep.
And it was like ripe for us to be like, that's sketchy. But then you meet them and be like, well, we're all on the same page.
Totally.
So it was like we didn't get it from afar, and then by the end of it, we're like, man, we could have been friends the whole time.
Yeah, there was we played in Kent, Ohio a couple of years ago. We were on tour at Crowbar.
Crowbar?
Yeah.
Oh,
and,
wow.
We played there at some spot.
You played at Outpost.
That could be it.
Yeah.
I was trying
kind of big place out in the middle of nowhere.
It's fairly big, and it's out in the middle of nowhere.
And junky.
It looks like
inside.
the kind of place like Leatherface would like hang out at, kind of. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It has like we pulled up and I remember during the day, and I was just like, there's like a bar you go in, and it was like, you know, I felt like you know, we were gonna get abducted or something like that. You know?
Yeah. No, that's where Party of Helicopters played our last show.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it's got like some.
It's been
some
there
history
forever.
there.
It's been
All
there
right.
forever.
Yeah.
It's been a number of different things too.
And then just last summer, we were back there on our own playing. We were on the short tour to go out to Denver to play this fest out there, and that was the first gig was in Kent, Ohio. Wow. It's like on a Monday night.
Yeah,
so.
I mean that place does really well with heavy shows. We've been playing there.
Yeah, it's definitely the one thing and whenever I think of Kent and I think of Akron, I think of this sandwich shop that I believe is in Akron, Ohio, and they have specific names for these different sandwiches.
Oh yeah, Zubs.
Zubs.
Yeah.
And I personally didn't eat anything from there, but we went after it was the Crowbar gig. Mm-hmm. And the guy who was doing merch for us got some sandwich that was like literally like a sandwich made out of two sandwiches.
Yeah.
It was like grilled cheese, two grilled cheese sandwiches with the buns, and there was meat in the middle. And that was like pretty intense like offering, I thought.
Yeah, those are friends of ours, Mario and Tiffany. They own a lot of businesses around there. Like they're all like that style. They just opened a macaroni and cheese restaurant.
Wow.
Called Cheese and Chong's.
Cheese and Chong's.
And it's stoner macaroni and cheese. I feel like is just ridiculous stuff. It's that place is a block from my house.
Oh,
I
cool.
live right around the corner.
Yeah, it's a nice looking town, definitely.
It is. I mean, that area, like Highland Square, is like if you live in Akron, that's probably where you want to live.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, there's not a lot going on.
There was a kid that was on that tour with us, in our little entourage of people, he lived in Akron briefly.
Oh.
And he moved there to be in a band with somebody. And I was like, that's interesting, man. You know,
Yeah.
Akron, I feel like in towns like that, like there's tons of bands from everywhere, but usually it's like you're from that area and you know your friend, and these are your friends or from neighboring towns, but that's not necessarily a town that I would move to start something. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of a place where, like, I feel like if you had to grow up around
Right,
there,
exactly, to
and
know
you
someone,
knew how to make your way there.
Yeah.
But like, if you know, for us at Earthquaker, it is a fucking great place to have a business. Like, the city is very supportive with us. It's so cheap. There's no end to real estate in it, because it's a former like automotive, like industrial town.
Yeah, it's like
tires is what it was known for. It used to be a huge, like, really well off city, and then they moved it all overseas and like just abandoned the factories. It's like just all abandoned. So, you got a lot of buildings to choose from. But, I mean, it's coming around. They're building it up. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff happening there now. For being in bands, it's amazing.
Yeah,
because
practice spaces.
Yeah, practice spaces. It's so cheap. Like, that's why Party of Helicopters and my other bands toured so much. You could live in an amazing house and pay $70 a month in rent and utilities. No problems. Like, from like the 90s all the way to like the end of the 2000s. Like, it didn't matter. Big, huge houses that were like beautiful. Pay nothing to live there. We are within like 6 to 8 hours of every major city on the East Coast. So like, you could do a weekend like Chicago, Milwaukee, Detroit. It's like great for touring. There's like a lot of super creative people there. Kent State University is a really good art school and fashion design, so it attracted a lot of really interesting people. So I don't know, it's cool.
So we're winding at the time of this interview. We're winding down 2019. So, are there any big things happening in the 2020 for this company, or you got any unveiling, any new effects, or?
Yeah, well, in the past year we weren't so busy with new releases. We were kind of concentrating on like just internal things to fix. But one thing we did last year that was super cool is we did kind of an Earthquaker tour.
Oh, wow.
Where we like brought our pedal boards around, and it was 4 bands. We did it in Japan. So it was my band Relaxer and one of our demo artists, Lisa Belladonna, from the U.S., and then from Japan it was Boris.
Oh, wow.
And Crypt City. And we did 5 dates. It's all like Earthquaker-centric sort of, but really the focus was on the bands. And that was awesome. It was so much fun to do, and we're trying to do more of that, like hopefully next year in the U.S. and in Europe and Australia, and get some more bands, involved. I'm trying to do just more like interesting events like that where we can kind of combine all of our interests. In addition to that, we're going to have a way busier year with releases. I have a big backlog of kind of cool stuff, but we keep all that stuff secret until it comes out. One thing we're putting out, the cat's got out of the bag on this. Last year we did a limited edition fuzz pedal or distortion pedal for the band Sun.
Oh, okay, yeah.
First thing we're doing in 2020 is a production version of that pedal.
Nice.
But it is also limited. But this one is more 2,500.
Wow.
Then it's done. Smaller footprint. It's kind of based on the pedals that they are always known to use: a rat and an octave and a boost. All you need then is like 16 Model Ts and 40 cabinets, and you'll get the sound. But that's the first thing, and we're doing a synth module for the first time. There's a lot of people in our shop who are into modular synth, and we're turning one of our most popular pedals, the Afterneath, this crazy reverb, into the synth module, and that should be pretty cool. That'll be a first for us.
That's it for this week's episode of Metal Matters, a Gimme Radio weekly podcast. Tune in next week and see what we have in store for you. The show is available on all streaming platforms, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, etc. Also, be sure to check out Gimme Radio, streaming on the web, iOS, or Android, for one of the best metal communities, exclusive merch, interviews with artists, and so much more. I'll catch you guys next week. Take care.